Hey, what's up guys and welcome to Anime King, and today I'm going to be giving you part 2 of what if Naruto was a direct descendant of the Sage. Remember to get this one to 200 like as usual, share this to all of your friends in your social media platform, and if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice and you enjoy the videos on both Anime King and Anime King 3, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family, and thank you for all of your help and support. I'm gonna be leaving the link down below for Anime King 3 guys, so go ahead and go over there and enjoy guys. So yeah, without further ado, what is to begin this new episode, start the intro. So, the last spot we left off, as Naruto had made his way towards the Hokage's office who wasn't there. So with that he just headed back because he didn't find what he was looking for, as he was looking for kunais and shurikens. As he remembered those guys with red eyes always had them, so with that Naruto made his way. As he ended up wandering into the Uchiha compound. But strangely no one was there as Naruto hopped over the fence, as he made his way towards the stores. As he crawled inside he heard something coming, as he heard two people talking outside, as he hid. But they eventually found him as Naruto running under their feet as he rushed as fast as possible. After all, he was able to hide from envoys, so he could hide from these ninjas as he made his way towards the Ichoku ramen shop. After going there, Ayam told the ninjas that she didn't see anyone come through here. As the Uchihas went off, fearing that Naruto heard their plan, that Fukaku was conquering about the meetings. So with that, the old man came out as the both of them started to talk, as Ayam went to go and prepare Naruto a big bowl of ramen. Naruto then heard the old man stop talking as he saw blood. The Uchiha came back and slaughtered the old man. And then, he killed Ayam right in front of Naruto, shocking Naruto. As Naruto couldn't believe what he was seeing. As he lost it, he felt rage. Unbridled rage as his eyes started to change, as he released a force. When Naruto woke up, he was in a crater, as he saw the two mangled bodies of the Uchihas there. So struck with grief and hatred and anger, Naruto left, as he rushed as fast as possible out of the village. After that, Naruto was found by a monk, who brought him towards the temple. As the head monk there started to talk to Naruto and tell him about his eyes. Naruto was quite surprised by that his eyes were no different, purple with purple patterns in them. As the man spoke to him, for a long while Naruto stayed there. As he made a decision, he still wanted to be a ninja when the man asked him, and those eyes of his can do great things in this world. Naruto ended up meeting a boy named Sora. As Naruto continued his training with his senpai now there, the man that found him. As when Naruto first used the almighty push, a word just came into his head. It was rather, well, devastating. But now he was trying to focus how to release it in a flowing blow. But he used too much power and his body was sent sailing backwards. So he needed to work on that. So for right now, the moment Naruto started living at the Fire Temple. So yeah guys, that was the basically that's where we left off. You guys can switch across the place and check it out for yourself. So let's begin this new episode. Chikaku looked up from his desk with a smile on his face as he thought about the last year since Naruto joined the temple. It was quickly marked with a frown, however, as he picked up the piece of paper that he had been reading. He sighed as he placed to one side, quickly writing a response that he sent back every time he received a letter like this. As he signed his name on it, write the past on so he can go back to Konoha. As his gaze looked towards the letter, it had a seal of the Hokage on it. He would change the wording every time, but the gist was always the same: bring Naruto back to Konoha. In the same matter, the monk answer never changed. It was always a no. As long as Naruto was under the roof of the Fire Temple, Chikaku would see to it that he would never return to his old home. As Naruto had told him about his life there, and the elderly monk was shocked. He had worked out for Naruto treatment, and the village requested for him to be returned, and for his appearance. But it was just speculation at first, until he could find true evidence. But the way they treated this boy, considering the burden that was already on his shoulders, that was just ridiculous. What made it better though? He had the power, he had the authority, he had the influence, keep Naruto here. whether the Hokage or anyone else want to say anything about it. The fire temple was under his control, and as head monk, he reported to the Fire Lord, no one else, as he had known the man since the man was a baby in his mother's arms, and he has always stayed in his favor. Once more, the man knew better than to upset the person that controlled his protection detail, the Guardian 12. Of course, it was always Naruto's decision. If the boy wanted to return to his old home, Chikaku would not stop him. He would of course be sad to see Naruto leave. The temple had become much brighter since the boy was introduced, but he never saw any indication that Naruto wanted to leave. In fact, the boy seemed incredibly happy here, like he had found a smile long since forgotten. Chikaku was broken from his musings as he heard a large commotion outside. As he moved to the window, a frown in his face as he spotted a fire. As he saw a flicker of red, he then felt an aura wash over the entire place. As he rushed from the room, skip to earlier, as Naruto's sleep was troubled, he saw red eyes and fur as he snapped out of his sleep, as he was panting heavily, cold sweat all over his body. He took a deep breath before raising himself. Glancing over the clock on his wall, he realized it was only a half an hour since Sora brought him to his room. More than that though, there was a presence in the air, weighing down on him like an invisible weight. Getting to his feet, he was shocked to see flames outside, as he made his way quickly, as he saw it was one of the smaller temples. The building, the roof, the walls were up in flames, as smoke billowed out in the sky. There was a gathering of monks, some of them trying to douse the place with water, some of them using water ninjutsu, and some of them gathering around something else. As Naruto took a few steps forward towards the second group, until he felt a hand gripped his shoulder. No, Naruto, you have to stay away, it's dangerous. As he saw Chikaku, as the man looked rather concerned, suddenly, a monk was sent sailing back like a ragdoll. That distracted Chikaku long enough for Naruto to break out of the grip and move forward to see what was going on. He didn't want to be treated like a child. He lived here and this was his home now, and he would protect it no matter what. Ignoring Chikaku's cries out to stop him, Naruto barged past two monks and froze to what he saw. Sora stood at the center of a ring of monks, except it wasn't the Sora that Naruto knew for the past year. He was hunched over, crazy look in his eyes as an evil grin spread across his features. The arm that he usually kept covered over was red with spiky protrusions coming from it, and the fingers were claws. Most of all, the entire body was shrouded in a red cloak, as three tails danced behind him. Sora! Naruto cried out, as the boy snapped his attention towards Naruto. The only thing Naruto saw was a bloodthirsty look, like a predator spotting his next meal. Naruto took a step back as he saw the pure malice behind the boy's eyes. It wasn't Sora. It just couldn't be. Naruto, stop! As Naruto heard his senpai, along with a few others, monks concerned with his safety. But he ignored them as he rushed towards the creature his friend had become. But he didn't make it too far as the tail smashed into him, sending him sailing as he crashed into the earth. As his clothes got torn, Naruto pulled himself out of the small crater his body created as he looked over towards his friend, as Sora had turned away from him, as Naruto saw two other monks got batted away by the tails. As Naruto placed one hand behind him as he started to gather the enough force and the chakra. As he took a breath, universal pull, as Naruto felt the pull on his body like gravity had latched onto him, but the hand that he kept behind him kept him firm in place. Sora, on the other hand, had no such luck as he was pulled towards Naruto, unable to do anything about it. As Naruto pulled his hand into a fist, ready to knock some sense into Sora. But at the last moment, Naruto grabbed him as the possessed Sora blinked confusedly, as an iron-like grip held on to him. One hand was over his shoulder as Naruto held on to his friend. The tails behind him sway uncertainly for a moment. Please, Sora, I don't understand what is going on, but please stop this. Just stop this. Let me help you. As Naruto ignored the pain as the chakra started to burn his skin. Stop it, Naruto shouted. Slowly, the tail started to shrink. The chakra of Sora started to twitch as it was being absorbed into Naruto. As it did so, steam came from Naruto's body as the burn and bruises healed within seconds. Finally, when the cloak had fully disappeared, the two boys collapsed to the ground. Naruto was still clutching Sora tightly. The monks quickly rushed over to see if they were okay. Aside from a few burns and scratch mark on Sora, he was perfectly fine. And Naruto's fine as well, just unconscious. Chikaku sighed in relief. He was simply glad that there were no casualties, but he would have to explain it more to the rest of the monks. Not to mention Naruto was going to be asked a question as well. Alright, start with note those fires. We'll repair the damages tomorrow. Get some rest. As soon as the murmuring died down, he looked back at the boys on the ground. How can two boys so young bear such a heavy burden, he thought to himself. Meanwhile, Drip. Naruto felt at peace, as he felt calm. Drip. The ground beneath him was not painful or anything. Drip. There were no aches over his body. He felt completely fine. As he gently moved a hand up his body, another drip. As he felt no bandages over him. Drip. Likewise, his clothing seemed fresh. There was no damage. Drip. Shut up, Naruto shouted, as he was tired of that dripping. But his voice echoed through. As he wondered where he was, it was definitely not the temple. As he got to his feet, once again surprised that he wasn't hurt at all, and he was perfectly fine. He looked around his purple eyes, taking around his surroundings. As far as he could tell, it was a basement level of some kind of building. As he found himself in one already when he was exploring Konoha, but the one that he found himself in back then it was much cleaner, as pipes went off into pure darkness. As he saw the one that was leaking, and it was larger than all of them. As he saw some foul, red liquid gather at the bottom of the pipe before it dripped. Whatever it was, he knew better than to touch it. When he made contact with the floor, it sizzled. But then the small hole disappeared like it was never even there. What? As he watched this repeat 3 times before turning his gaze away. Having nothing better to do, Naruto walked down the corridor, as the entire place seemed exactly the same. Ever so often, he would reach another leak in the pipe. That was the only thing telling him that he was going down a different path. As he reached 2 identical pathways. As he shrugged as he headed right. After another 5 minutes of walking, he got fed up as he stopped. He liked to imagine that a year in a temple had somewhat calmed him and take away his jumpy and loud attitude. But really, almighty, push! The area around Naruto blew in a massive push as he extended both hands. But when he opened back his eyes, nothing. The pipes were fine. The place was completely fine. But he felt something strange as he started to build up his chakra again. As he looked up to the pipe, whatever that was in that pipe, it sped up when he gathered chakra, and when he released it, it dispersed. Weird. As he just continued to walk down the pathway as he sighed. But he froze as he felt it. That same aura that Sora was releasing. His eyes widened in panic as he rushed down there. If Sora was having another attack, he needed to be there for his friend. After another 5 minutes of running, turned a corner. There was a massive room, and what made this room different from the others was a massive gate. Darkness was everywhere. He couldn't see the end of the gate, or even the top of the gate. But the moment he stepped in the room, 2 large eyes opened up. Slitted eyes. They were followed by a huge mouth with rows of sharp teeth. Each gleaming white tooth was as tall, well, taller than Naruto, and it looked like he can tear through anything. So my jailer finally honored me with his presence, and with the gift of my chakra nonetheless. How very... The 2 massive eyes narrowed, as the head, whatever the eyes were attached to, lowered, as it pulled in a deep breath of air. Thoughtful, large white claws started to scrape at the bars. While it was terrifying, Naruto realized, as long as he stayed away from the bars, he wouldn't get hurt by this thing. Are you not going to speak? It has been so long since I have the pleasure of company. 8 miserable years, in fact. Naruto gulped as he tried to hide how frightened he was of this thing. Demon was the first thing that came to his mind, but upon that, Naruto remembered his life in Konoha. Those quiet whispers when he thought he was not listening. They too had called him Demon, but Master Chikaku told him that he just did not understand him, and it was their ignorance that led to their hatred. Hello, I'm Naruto, he said. The great eyes once again focused on Naruto, as the eyes lowered, seeming like the head was lowered to the ground. I know your name. I listened to it every time you made that foolish declaration of becoming Hokage. What's yours, said Naruto. The thing didn't start to laugh as Naruto held his ears, as it was a booming laughter. But the laugh contained no humor, it was more mocking than anything. Just because you have those eyes, don't presume you can hold a candle to their original odor. The creature slammed his other paw somewhere in the cage, the boom resounding out. Its eyes narrowed dangerously, but Naruto did not flinch or move. Tell me, do you fear me? Naruto shook his head no. Master Chikaku said that fear is a natural human response to something we don't understand. But if we don't choose to try and understand, it will lead to ignorance and unfounded hatred. and that hatred will only lead to more pain, suffering and fear. The creature seemed amused by that, as it rises up into the cage. Don't even hope to begin that you will ever understand me. I'm a being beyond your comprehension, mixture of millennia, hatred and rage. Naruto looked down at that. Master Chikaku told me that no one is born hating. It's only their experiences, their losses, and their suffering that drive them to hate. He looked back at the creature as he was looking at him. The creature then lowered his head, his eyes fixed on Naruto. After a few moments of silence, it finally spoke in a low tone. For now, you may call me Kyuubi. Now be gone, kid. This idiotic conversation has already bored me. Naruto felt a tug like something grabbed onto him as he was yanked back into darkness. But before he could fully leave, he caught a glimpse of the Kyuubi full form. A large, nine-tailed fox. Naruto. 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 The voice seemed to echo in his head like he was underwater. Naruto blinked as he winked, as he was looking directly into a ceiling light. His eyes clenched shut as he felt like he was being smacked over the head repeatedly. No, wait. What was that for, old man? Said Naruto, as he glared at the monk, who offered a small smile in return, his staff going back behind him. Good, you're up, Naruto-kun. We were starting to worry. Naruto just glared at Chikaku as he rubbed his head. You got a funny way of showing it, master. As the monk started to reach behind for the staff once again. What was that, my boy? Oh, nothing, master, said Naruto. Chikaku just continued to smile as Naruto released a sigh of relief when he noticed the staff had vanished once again. He didn't know where it came from or where it was, but it just seemed that the man could just summon it or something. Good, my ears aren't what they used to be, so I had to be sure. Naruto's eyes then snapped around. Sora, how is he? Oh, don't worry about that, Sora is fine. In fact, he woke up a few hours before you did. I believe he's out training right now. Naruto blinked in surprise at that. He didn't know what was going on with Sora, but he seemed serious. Just how long had the two been out? As if sensing Naruto's thoughts, Chikaku gestured towards the clock. Don't worry, my boy, you're only out for a night. None of you boys let a scratch on you after a few hours. Wait, training, said Naruto. As the monk nodded, shouldn't he be resting or something, Naruto asked. Well, he was rather insistent. I believe he had some issues to work out, and nothing beat exercising to clear one's head. As Naruto wondered what kind of problems Sora had, he was supposed to come to him if he had any problems. After all, they were friends, and the same and vice versa. Naruto then remembered something. Master, he said. He glanced towards Naruto and raised a single eyebrow, as Naruto knew that he was listening. While I was unconscious, I found myself in a strange place of pipes and corridors that I was wandering, and then there was a giant room with a huge cage. The monk turned his full attention, and did you see what was behind the cage? Naruto blinked in surprise. It looked like the monk was taking what he said seriously. Yeah, at first it was some big eyes and teeth, but when I was leaving, I caught a glimpse of it. It was a large fox that was orange, and it called itself the Kyuubi. As Naruto was shocked to see Chikaku eyes open in surprise. He had never seen the head monk eyes open before. You say it referred to itself. Did you talk with it? Naruto nodded as the monk turned away and looked through the window. But it was just a dream, right, master? As Chikaku looked at Naruto, seeing the nervous look on his face, the man sighed as he got to his feet on aching knees. Naruto, come to my study in a few minutes. There's something I need to talk to you about. But first, I must go get Sora. There's something you need to know. And with that, the monk just left, leaving a highly confused Naruto as the monk made his way towards training grounds. Time skip. Naruto, Sora, this is gonna be very hard for the both of you to hear. Honestly, I feel like it's too early for me to tell you these things. But I believe that should I not explain them now, that you will be forced to live in confusion later on. As both Naruto and Sora were sitting in Chikaku's study, as Chikaku was behind a table, as both Naruto and Sora were sitting in chairs, as the old monk took a deep breath, as he then turned fully towards the two boys. You both know of the attack 8 years ago on Konoha. After getting two nods, he continued. It may not have been spoke a lot, but it was not a secret. But before I explain that, you must first know about the bijus. As he saw the confused look on their faces, nobody knew where they came from or what they truly want, but we know that you're powerful. There are 9 of them in total, each marked by the number of their tails. As he saw a glint in their eyes, but he silenced any question right now with a wave of his hand. They are enormous constructs of forms given life, and if I can trust a certain source of information, intelligence. The thing that attacked Konoha 8 years ago was the Kyuubi, the most powerful of the biju. Its motives was unknown, but in the end, it destroyed over half of the village before it was defeated by the 4th Hokage. But except chakra's energy, and like all energy, It cannot be fully destroyed, only move or change, so in essence, it's impossible to kill a biju. At best, it would reform as his consciousness, pull its physical form back together. As he saw they were following him, that is why over the years, humans started to seal biju away, like a kunai would go into a scroll. But it was not that simple as he come to realize. Bijus were far more too powerful to just be sealed away like that, so they started to use humans. People started to weaponize these vessels, as they were called jinjulkis. The biju sealed inside of them. He sighed sideways. He looked at the two boys. Is anything clearer now? He asked. He felt a tug as he saw Naruto looking down at the decks, his eyes shadowed by his hair. Sora, on the other hand, just seemed confused as he looked between Naruto and the elder monk. I don't understand why. Are you telling us this? As Naruto was the one to speak. Because we're jinjulkis, aren't we? As he looked up at the old man, Chikaku sighed deeply. People didn't give Naruto enough credit. He was much sharper than he appeared. Not quite, Naruto, you're a jinjulke. And from what you told me, you contained the nine-tailed fox that attacked Konoha. It was most likely sealed into you from the fourth Hokage in order to stop the creature's rampage. Seeing Naruto head dip back, he turned to Sora, who was still confused and lost. Sora, on the other hand, is a rather unique case. He cannot have a biju inside of him, seeing that they are all currently occupied in the various villages. However, he certainly has a chakra of one within him. Even Naruto looked up at that, confused by what the monk meant. I believe that someone gathered the chakra, expelled from the Kyuubi that night, and sealed it into Sora. That was what that instant was, Sora, tapping into the power that was within him. But as you witness, the chakra of the beast is so potent that it can hold their will, even after separation from the beast itself. The Kyuubi is known for being a beast of hatred and rage. It is no doubt that its chakra is also mixed with that, and it draws upon when its user is in anguish or emotional stress. It's a great power, but also a great burden. But just like with any ability or technique, with enough patience or enough practice, I don't want it. Chikaku and Naruto looked at Sora in shock as he stood from his seat, quickly allowing the wooden chair to fall over. His chest was raising high and lowering fast, as, for a second there, Chikaku could swear that he saw a flicker of red as tears were leaking from the boy's eyes. I never asked for this power. Get it out of me. As he felt a hand on his shoulder, as he turned to see Naruto held onto his shoulder, he didn't know why, but it felt like a single touch was what was stopping him from just storming out of the room. It was calming. Unfortunately, Sora, there's never been a matter of safely extracting a biju chakra once it has been stored into a host. On the other hand, like I said, you're a unique case, though. Perhaps I'll do it. Chikaku sighed, wondering when it became so common for people to interrupt him in the middle of his sentences. As he looked over the young blonde, a mass of pure determination in his face. As Naruto looked at Sora, I'll find a way to help you, even if I have to take on your burden myself. Sora was shocked. He knew that Naruto was his friend, but he never expected that. A small grateful smile came on his face as he pulled Naruto into a hug. Thank you, Naruto. I can really count on you always, can't I? Naruto simply nodded, the determination in his eyes never wavering. As the monk coughed as he turned to look at him. As I was saying, he tilted his head as he reached behind waiting for an interruption, but none came. So he placed his hands on decks. There may be a way, yet. Naruto, you did something while Sora was under the Fox's chakra influence. None of the monks has ever seen anything like it. It was almost like you were drawing the chakra off of him right into yourself, and you were healing as you did it. I did? I don't remember that, said Naruto. All I remember is holding on to Sora and wishing that he would just stop. I didn't want to see him that way covered by that foul chakra. Said Chikaku. Naruto, I want you to do something for me. Naruto nodded as he didn't question the monk, as he trusted him fully. Touch my arm and remember back to that moment. Just like when you were training in your gravity manipulation. Naruto seemed rather confused, but he grabbed a hold of the old man's arm and started to think back. Like everything in the past, he could easily bring up the memories of the previous night. As he remembered, the red smoke from the flames, and then seeing his friend like that, as he felt something like he was holding on to Chikaku, but in a different way. As Naruto started to pull, the head monk looked at his hand with shock, as he could feel his chakra being siphoned off. If he didn't have as much chakra as he did, only rivaled by Shuriku, and unknowingly, Naruto in the temple, he would have been worried. Like that time a year ago, Naruto found words that escaped his lips, words that he did not know. Pre the path. As Chikaku's eyes widened as he felt the rate that his chakra was being drawn increase, as he pulled his arm away from Naruto. And the process stopped, but he felt tired, like he has been training for hours. Naruto, on the other hand, looked refreshed, the slight bags under his eyes vanishing. as Sora mumbled something about blondes getting all the luck. Well, that was interesting, said Naruto. You said pre-the-pat, Naruto. Was it like what you told me about the names of those gravity techniques? As Naruto nodded, as Chikaku hummed to himself. Perhaps this is one of the 6 paths that gave the sage his name, which might make those gravity techniques another. Devapat, said Naruto, as those words popped into his head. I think it's Devapat. For the other one, said Naruto. Chikaku blinked as he stood up, as he moved towards a window. Interesting, then that means there are 4 more you have yet to discover. He looked back around, and for a moment Naruto was reminded of when he spoke into Jiji. The both of them had the same look. Only time will tell if you will discover them or not, but I'm sure if you do, you will master them. As he sighed, Uchiha had his pipe to draw upon, but he had given up that years ago. Clean-bodied temple thing. For now though, I believe that is enough. Get some food. We have plenty of time to figure things out. He watched as the 2 boys stood, bowing and left the room, bickering the moment they left outside. So, you held me, huh? Said Sora. As Naruto blushed with embarrassment. You're just jealous that I had to be the one to save you. Sora started to laugh, as he placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder, laughing the entire way. As Chikaku smiled, glad that this experience has done nothing to damper their spirit and their friendship. Time skip, the next few months flew by quickly for Naruto, as he made a promise and he was intending on keeping it. As he wanted to find a way to free Sora of the burden inside of him. As he spent hours in the library, but that wasn't to say that he neglected his other studies and training. As he still made time to do everything, but he found his day tightly packed. The other monks weren't too surprised after all. Naruto meditated for 3 days straight to just move a point to them. Fuinjutsu had briefly caught his eyes. It was what? That was used to seal the beast into them after all. But that was a dead end. Learning and mastering seal to that extent was, well, that will take years. Time that Naruto had, but Sora did not. It wasn't obvious, but it was subtle. As Sora was getting more and more in flux to the Kyuubi's chakra, brief flashes of anger, his eyes flooding red occasionally, and the worst of all, his arm. His arm was now permanently stuck in its more demonic form. What Naruto needed was time, or at least a way to decrease the time that will take him to learn Fuinjutsu. But the head monk told him something that could help him. A technique that was known by the temple as well, shared by Konoha. The Shadow Clone technique. As it seemed so simple, he could split the clones and learn so quickly. But things were never so easy for Naruto when he created the clones. Because them having Rinnegan eyes, Naruto could see through their eyes. As it was strange to find himself staring through hundreds of, like, mirrors at once. Not to mention confusing and painful. Right now he could only deal with his vision split 3 ways, but it was a bit distracting. As Chikaku theorized that with practice he could increase the clones, so he spent an hour of each day working on that. As he found out by accident, while his clone was watching, that he could find and seize blind spots. With the 3 of them, he could be perfectly guarded, but they were fragile, and once Sora saw what Naruto was doing, he destroyed the clones. But Naruto could easily remake them once pop. As Sora also learned Shaolin Jutsu as well, and thanks to his large reserves, he was able to make them. He did not suffer from the same thing that Naruto did, but the mental taxing was more exhausting on him, limited him to how many clones he could make a day, but allowed him to study inside the clones while meditating outside and training. As he also became interested in the art of Fuinjutsu, as he impressed them by drawing out seals and simple barriers. Naruto on the other hand was looking down different avenues, mainly his dojutsu, as he threw himself to understand his eyes, relentlessly training to understand his deva and pre the path. As he could direct the chakra to pre the path, not just absorb it, he could pull it into his body, or he could push his own into someone else's, adapting his chakra into a new body. He found he could even push chakra into the ground or objects, but it just strengthened them, and if he pushed enough it gave them a blue glow. On the other hand, he started to study about the sage himself, trying to get insights on his powers and perhaps one of the other abilities. Apart from the myth about the moon, there was barely enough information. Yes, everything about that time was, well, very small. As Chikaku had saw him studying this as he brought Naruto down to a strange underground passageway. Some things that the daimyo didn't want the ninjas protecting. As the man showed Naruto a shakijo. Yes, a staff that said to belong to the sage himself. According to records, it was a gift to one of the sage friends that went on to become the first monk and start in the fire temple. It was kept in the vault because it absorbed massive amount of chakra, killing an ordinary person in moments and an average jonin in about 10 minutes. As Naruto wanted to pick it up, but Chikaku had held him back, telling him that it was not time for that yet. So at the moment Naruto was currently sitting down, as a pawn was in front of him as he was meditating, as he was feeling the flow of his chakra, as he was told by the monk that he had great control over his chakra even for someone as him who had such large reserves, as he theorized that it was because of the Rinnegan, as Naruto could, well, focus his chakra to direct places and harness it well. As Naruto felt his chakra move on his stomach, a small frown came on his face. There was a small pull on his chakra in that era, draining it out of his pathway and into something else. He knew what it was, of course, the seal that held the Kyuubi within him. He thought about how easy it would be to pull back on that chakra, stopping it from flowing into the seal. It would only take a simple thought, but that would degrade the prison, releasing the Kyuubi's chakra into his body, which he was sure that was not pleasant for him. As he started to focus on that though, as his chakra moved through the seal, as he could also feel the Kyuubi's chakra leaking into his system, but the Krita path changed it into a more usable form, as that had been working since the Rinnegan had been activated, as he felt a familiar tug on his mind that he hadn't felt in a few months, as he fell unconscious. So, you've returned. As Naruto opened back his eyes, and he found himself in front of the cage, with the biju behind it. Kyuubi, he said, as Naruto gave a small bow, before feeling a large ear wash over him. No need for the pleasantries, kid. Why have you come here? Or do you enjoy to flaunt your freedom in front of your prisoner? Naruto frowned at that as he sat down on the floor. The Kyuubi frowned a bit, as a position he had seen him many times. The way Naruto folded his legs from someone who he would never see again. You know, I never asked for you to be silent at me. The fox snorted in amusement. So you have come to whine about the injustice of your pathetic existence. How typical of your kind. Naruto did not really fear the Kyuubi, as long as it was safely locked away within him. You speak as if you know humans. As a red eye cracked open in front of him. I know about your kind, far more than I care to remember, or even wish to. As there was a silence, as the fox closed his eye once again. What happened? As the Kyuubi looked at him. Everything focused on him. What make you hate so much? The Kyuubi grunted as the bars shook, as he raised himself up on his paws, as it moved closer, coming into the light as Naruto got a good look at it. Orange furs with black markings from his ears going up over his eyes. 9 long tails swinging behind him. Time, kid. Time happened. Time will produce more hatred within a being than any numbers of grudges or anything. And I just happen to be cursed with the gift of immortality. As it sunk onto his belly, his large tails wrapping protectively around his body. Why do you ask such pointless things, kid? What could you possibly gain from it? A means to control me? Are you not satisfied, waiting for the seal to siphon my chakra way into you? As the fox waited for the reply that he expected. No, I want to understand you. It blinked once. That was not the answer it was expecting, and its eyes narrowed again. Then you will fail. Be gone! As Naruto felt a tug to pull him away, but he resisted it. As the Kyuubi tried to go back in darkness, but he felt like he was not alone as he turned. Why do you keep on testing my patience, kid? Let me have my peace. But Naruto did not move as he closed his eyes. Is that what you want? Peace. The biju stopped. As red eyes looked over Naruto. As it... Remember. Yes, they were so familiar, the both of them. Then why attack Konoha? Why harm people you find so insignificant? What did you have to gain? Naruto heard growling as he slowly opened his eyes. As the fox's face was rather close to the cage, teeth peering at him. Do not try me. I have no reason to explain myself to you or your wretched kind. Continue to aggravate me, and I will make sure when I claw myself out of the seal, it's the most painful thing in your pathetic short life. As it raised his head high. Now, I said leave! As this time the tug was far stronger as Naruto was forcefully ejected. When he was finally satisfied, the fox retreated back into the darkness, where it couldn't even see itself. It curled up around itself, its 9 tails, wrapping around him as he went to sleep, a frown on his face. Time skip, a lone figure, as the figure made his way. He had on a brown cloak, as he was making his way through the sand. He wasn't very tall or imposing, 4'7", but there was something about him if you saw him pass by, it catch your attention. Perhaps it must be the single Megatama bead dangling from his ear, as he caught the light of the sun. Or maybe it was a bright blonde hair that would show from under his hood when the wind blew it back. Or it might have been the tall Shakijo, the statue that jingled, as it reached higher than him. More than likely though, it was that whenever a sand dune or a sand blizzard tried to come near him, it would bounce back like it was pushed back by some kind of force or barrier. He came to a stop resting on his staff. Despite the staff standing directly on top of the sand, it did not sink into the sand, it just stood there. As he gazed around for a moment, as he tugged his hood back, showing bright golden hair wrapped up in a ponytail. As he smiled, He thought about the events that led him here, the good and the bad. Flashback. Good morning, Naruto. You look much better now that you have time to settle and eat. How are you finding the temple so far? As Naruto looked up, it's great. The monks are really nice. And even though Sora can be really annoying sometimes, he helped me. When? Senpai is busy. Chikaku smiles, you're often to here. I'm glad, just to make sure. If there's anything you need or if you have any questions or concern, just come right to me, okay? As Naruto nodded, oh, master, there's something that Shiriku talked to me about. He said I should be able to turn off my Rinnegan, but I cannot pull the chakra out of my eyes. Chikaku raised his eyebrow as he looked into her eyes and he felt for the build-up. And he felt it, there was a build-up of chakra behind her eyes. Surely, what was keeping the Rinnegan active? I don't think there's anything to worry about, Naruto. It is true that Sharingan users can deactivate their eyes, but the Rinnegan is far more mysterious than theirs. For all we know, it cannot be deactivated by the will of its user. Then again, maybe you lack the control to do so. Don't forget that you have just recently begun to train the use and control of your chakra. Naruto scowled at that, but he accepted the older man's words. Have you felt more tired since you got those eyes? Naruto shook his head no. Do you feel pain at all with those eyes? Naruto shook his head no again. Are you afraid of people seeing those eyes? He looked hesitant, but he shook his head no. Naruto, it's perfectly alright to be afraid of something new, but you need to understand those eyes are something as a gift. And I'm sure, with time enough, you'll be able to use them the right way. Because I believe, my boy, that those eyes of yours will be a destiny changer. As he gave Naruto a smile, and if worse come to worse, just do what I do. As Naruto chuckled, because, Chikaku, eyes looked like they were always squinting as you could not see them. Thanks, master, he said. You're really smart, you know. And don't you forget it, the old man said. In the flashback, Naruto smiled as he remembered those warm memories. His eyes crinkling to a slit that had always annoyed Sora. So he started to do it all the time, copying the master and ignoring Sora. As he started to walk again, as the staff in his right hand jingled, as night was coming. Flashback. Naruto sat on the living quarters, just staring at the moon. In his eyes, he saw a faint silver aura that radiated ever since he came here. He was supposed to be up here. In fact, the caretaker always get annoyed when he found Naruto on top of the roof. Even so, Naruto could not sleep, his dreams invaded by scenes of destruction and wreckage. It was like he was looking through eyes that was not his, looking on at destruction his body could not control. The nightmares didn't come that often, but when they did, he could not go back to sleep. So instead, he just came up here. Nightmare again. As Naruto knew that Sora had crawled up on the roof as well. Naruto simply nodded, the same one, as he nodded once again. Always. Sora placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder to calm him. But Naruto looked away. I'm sorry, Sora. For what? It has been 3 months. I haven't found anything to help you yet. I made a promise. Sora blinked as a sad smile slipped on his face as he looked towards the moon as well. I never asked you to make that silly promise. What you're trying to do should be impossible anyway. Naruto scoffed at that, but the cold edge disappeared, his eyes narrowing in a challenging way, like the sage greeting the moon, as he laughed his own comment. But Sora leaned back on the roof. Hey, what if he did it? I mean, what if he really did it? Naruto blinked as he lay on the roof as well. Then he would be way more powerful than even the legends make him out to be. Sora smirked at that. I'm gonna be like that one day. Naruto scoffed as Sora got up. What's so funny? Naruto simply grinned as he just continued to look at the moon. Please, if you ever get that powerful, then I'll be able to move the moon around by just thinking of it and it move. Because I'll always be more powerful than you. As Sora started to laugh as he flopped back down. Right, move the moon. What was I thinking, he said. You're on, said Naruto. Sora blinked in surprise. That wasn't a challenge, Naruto. Just because you know that you'll lose, said Naruto. Sora was immediately on his feet. I will never lose to you, he said. Naruto burst out laughing though. The anger leaked away from Sora as he realized it was a joke. A few minutes later, they were once again on their backs, as they were looking up at the moon. So how would you do it? Naruto asked. How would you move the moon? Sora blinked. Before he shrugged, I don't know. But you know what Master always says. If there's a problem that you can't solve, as long as we have friends, they will be there to lighten the burden. As Naruto chuckled at that. Yeah, I guess Naruto paused. That's it! Sora, you're a genius! Well, I know that, but what exactly did I... Sora then heard something as he turned his head. As he looked back around, Naruto was gone. A voice said. Sora started to back away as a caretaker had a large spoon in his hand, a wooden spoon. Well you see, it's like, damn it Naruto, Sora cursed. In the flashback, Naruto laughed. at the memory, as he walked over another sand dune, as he started to grow cold as the sun vanished, as he rubbed the phantom wound on his side, as he thought about another life-changing event in the past 4 years since he'd been at the temple. Flashback. Geez, Naruto, calm down with you. You think that you were the one that was finally getting rid of their inner demon. Even though Sora tried to sound nonchalant about the whole business, he was excited as well. It was finally happening after Naruto had run off and leave him on the roof to deal with the angry caretaker. Apparently, something about their conversation had given Naruto the idea how to free Sora. He didn't exactly understand the technical version of the blonde's plan, but simplified. Many shadow clones to siphon off the chakra. But the main problem was, removing such a large potent chakra would cause an overload that would cause a chain reaction in the body that would kill the host. Only those with potent body of their own or a strong chakra could survive that. But Naruto had a, different way of doing it. He was going to draw it from all over Sora's body, not one place, so the buildup of chakra would lash back and kill Sora. He was going to use his clones to pull it, as the Frida Path could draw it from all over. It would still hurt, but with the extraction being spread out like that, it wouldn't be faithful. Chikaku was hesitant when Naruto brought this because it was very unknown, but it was Sora's choice. Overjoyed at that, Sora immediately wanted to do it. Around them though, monks were drawing out protection seals, but if worse come to worse, they wouldn't hold out that long against the Kyuubi form, Sora. As the monks finally finish. As Naruto nodded, "You ready?" Sora seemed hesitant, but one look at his friend, he nodded back. As Naruto started to feel for the chakra, the feel of the Kyuubi's chakra was unmistakable. It had no mind to guide it, it was just flowing inside of him. Naruto, along with his 10 clones, latched onto it as he started to draw it out. It was immediate as red chakra started to leak from Sora, as he was shrouded by a one-tailed cloak, as Naruto was holding back the rest of chakra. As Sora started to pant heavily, it felt like his body was being roasted on the inside. As Naruto saw the red seep into his friend's eyes, but he could not speed it up any faster than he would burn away Sora chakra network. As he just gritted his teeth, hoping that he could finish before anything happened. But Sora started to stretch around, first a claw hand and then a tail. The clones tried to keep him steady and contained, but being as weak as they was, it wasn't much. As Naruto couldn't risk them popping early either, that would cause an influx of chakra that would be too dangerous for him. He was so focused on that he missed the red tail came towards him. He cried out in pain as the tail pierced into him. "Come on, Sora, we're almost there," said Naruto, as the tail had ripped out of him, but it healed within seconds. Clone was slaughtered by a tail to the head. As Naruto continued on, as he felt his hands shaking, but he still focused. As the last bit of red chakra seeped out of Sora, as Sora was barely clinging on to consciousness. "You kept your promise." End of flashback. Naruto realized what he was doing and stopped rubbing his side. The wound hadn't even scarred him, but he remembered it. He hadn't woken up for an entire day. The strain on his body from the extra Kyuubi's chakra being too much for him. Sora's system though had been stretched in the whole ordeal, leaving his chakra system much larger than before. Something caught Naruto's eyes. He saw a fox making his way under a dune. That immediately made him think about the other fox in his life. Flashback. Naruto was currently inside the cage. Well, in front of it. He was currently inside his mindscape, sitting down from the fox. He was not saying anything, his eyes were closed as he was meditating. Every 15 minutes or so, the fox would open his eyes, until he finally just decided to ask, "What are you doing, kid?" "I'm meditating," said Naruto. "I can see that," said the fox. "Then why do you ask?" Naruto said. His response was a large gust of wind as a Kyuubi growled in response. "Do you enjoy trying my patience, kid?" "Well, it's pretty amusing," said Naruto, as his hands dropped to his sides. He opened his eyes. "And my name is Naruto. All of you look alike. Why should I concern myself with such things?" Common courtesy," said Naruto. The fox snorted. "Is there any reason for this visit? Do you not remember how our past encounters have gone?" Yes, Naruto of course remember. He commented to see trying to talk to the fox, but it always blew him out. "I want to ask you about the sage." As the fox growled at him. "You once said I couldn't compare to him. That means you must have known him." The girl didn't stop, as the fox was looking away. "What is this, kid? Have you given up on your foolish quest to understand me?" As Naruto simply grinned, it unnerved the biju to see someone so calm, sitting like that in front of him. "Oh no, I never give up on anything, but I think that you would talk to me when you're ready." As the fox grunted, "I simply want to learn about my ancestor. It would be nice to know something about the original wielder of my eyes. How else am I supposed to live up to his legacy after all?" He blinked as the fox was strangely quiet. "If that is your wish, You should simply give up now. The Sage of Six Power was a god amongst you humans. You never even come to obtain a single glimpse of the power that man holds in his single hand. Naruto was surprised. That was the most passionate thing he heard from the fox. That was not out of anger. It sounds like you admire him. He had my respect. So there is a side of you that is not just rage and anger. Trying to disprove this, the fox growled at Naruto deeply. Naruto filed that subject away, touching for the fox, before he stood up. Well, I better be going now. Don't think this is over. The Kyuubi got up and just walked off in the darkness, as Naruto compared that acting to a petulant child. Whatever you say, human. End of flashback. After that, Naruto seemed to get some information from the fox, no matter how difficult he seemed to be. When you wild him up, he, well, spilled a few things. As, according to what the Kyuubi said, the sage was a very different person than Naruto. Calm and level-headed, always have a plan for everything. And when he did not, he easily make up for it in unadulterated power. They had similar belief, two of them never giving up, but they want peace. But the fox didn't reveal too much on that. Naruto's eyes made his way up another sand dune, as Naruto's Shakijo jingled again, as he looked towards it. As, in his eyes, it glowed a blue light. It wasn't even 5 days ago when you received it, when he left the temple. Flashback. I'm gonna miss you, man. Naruto smiled as he hugged his friend. I'll miss you too, said Naruto. But you know me, I'll be back. It's only a few years at most. The two felt hands on their shoulders as they looked around. Shiriko was smiling at both of them fondly. Indeed, it's always a joyous occasion when a monk go on a journey to find himself. It's also a part of becoming a monk that we must all go through at some point. When Naruto returned, he will not only be stronger, but wiser as well. As Sora snorted, Naruto become wiser? That blockhead? But he smiled. But seriously, you better become stronger, man, as he pulled something out of his pocket. I don't want you to come back so weak so I can easily defeat you. I want at least a challenge. As he opened his hand, showing a small bead shape with a comma. As Naruto had been seeing them wear by monks around the temple before. It was a Megatama. Wow, thanks Sora, he said as he picked it up, as he clipped the earring to his ear. I appreciate it. He really did. It was a thoughtful gift, supposed to bring good luck on travels. There is something else, young Naruto-kun. As Naruto turned to see the head monk, he wasn't too sure when he had gotten there. It's quite likely that you face hardships along your journey, and also find joy and wisdom. On that though, I would like to give you something that I believe will grant you some protection. As he produced a wooden case out of literally thin air, holding out to Naruto. As Naruto opened it, Ashakijo, he said, as he was confused. Monks in training didn't receive their own staff. Don't you recognize it? The master asked. As Naruto scanned over it. As Naruto reached out and took it in his hand, as the monks looked on with interest. As Naruto felt his chakra being pulled into it, but he stopped it and pulled the chakra back into him with his Prita path. The sage staff. You're giving me this? After seeing the staff is doing nothing to Naruto. Chikaku nodded. Of course, it's part of your legacy. Treat it well. Naruto moved forward and wrapped his small arms around the monk in a warm hug. Thanks, JJ, for everything you've done for me, said Naruto. As Chikaku eyes were open for once, as he didn't want to miss 1 minute of this as he roughened Naruto here, the boy that he come to see as his grandson. You're very much welcome, Naruto-kun. End of flashback. As Naruto climbed over another sand dune, as he saw it on the horizon, as a smile came on his face. The village of the sand was in sight, as he looked towards the hidden sand village. But guys, be in subscribe right here for the next part. If you don't know what to do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on the bell notifications they posted. But I'm off for now. See you guys soon. Peace.